In addition to President Trump's tweet, the U.S. State Department also issuing a statement saying, quote, the United States is deeply concerned by reports of the Chinese paramilitary movement along the Hong Kong border. We encourage China and all parties in Hong Kong to pursue a solution that respects Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy. Joining us now live from Hong Kong is Claudia Rosette, former editorial page editor of the Asian Wall Street Journal and currently a foreign policy fellow of the Independent Women's Forum. Claudia, thank you for joining us. You covered the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989. Is that where we are heading?
That's my great concern, David. They already have troops stationed in Hong Kong. They have a garrison here since the handover 22 years ago. Why do they need more at the border? It doesn't look good.
Claudia, thank you so much for being up so early to speak with us. I want to talk about just the possibility of intervention. And just within the past, I think it was 48 hours on Monday, the Chinese state media reporting that China is now saying that there's first signs of terrorism when it comes to Hong Kong. What's the significance of using the word terrorist and terrorism when you're talking about the protesters?
Well, they're laying down the verbal markers for a pretext for some kind of forceful action. There was no terrorism going on. You know, there was a scuffle in which some people who shouldn't have attacked a guy who was from a Chinese newspaper they thought was working undercover to spy on them, which people have been doing from China. But this has not been terrorism. Everything that's going on here tracks back to China and its puppet chief executive in Hong Kong being absolutely unyielding on the completely reasonable and right demands of the protesters. So China is calling it terrorism because that's what they also tell us they're concerned about with brainwashing, 1 million Uyghurs in internment camps. It's propaganda. It's a dangerous sign.
Claudia, it's Gary Smith. This strikes me as a civil war. And we may think that Hong Kong is right, where some might think that China is right. We might side with, I think, President Trump by his tweet, I guess, kind of sides with Hong Kong. But this seems to me like, as I said, an internal matter, as horrible as it might be. Should the U.S. have any role whatsoever other than issuing our concern?
It's not actually a strictly internal matter. There's a treaty deposited at the United Nations between Britain and China that sets out the terms for Hong Kong being handed back to China in 1997. It's stipulated, part of that is that Hong Kong will be treated separately for 50 years. There are already violations of that going on. But in a broader sense, and this is really important, I think, Hong Kong is a free society. It truly is. The people here qualify in every way richly to be highly competent at self-government. I mean, they really understand. The kids here who are demonstrating understand law better than a lot of New York lawyers I've run into. And there is, I think, a great importance to defending free people. It's very hard to create a truly functional free society. You don't let one go under. And in that sense, that's where they're calling Stand with Hong Kong. I think that is really important in every possible way, in every way within our power, to say the demands here are for what they were promised under treaty, not internal, under treaty. And China should comply with those.
Claudia, given the situation today, is there a way that China thinks these protests are just going to wind down on their own, try to isolate them, say they're violent, and more people peel away, as they did 5 years ago at the so-called umbrella protests? And is there a deadline of October 1st where Xi, president of China, dictator of China, has to have this thing resolved? He can't have this ferment going on in the 70th anniversary date.
Well, working backwards there, the speculation, President Xi hasn't actually commented on this, I don't think. So it's speculation among those of us who watch this kind of thing, that we know that China wants to have a big celebration for the 70th anniversary of the People's Republic of China, which, by the way, has been responsible over 70 years for the suffering, deaths, misery, repression of an enormous part of the world's population. But, okay, they want a big party, so they probably do want it cleaned up, but that's speculation. And as far as their hope that it might wind down by attrition, I think that's been fading away because the more that they decline, that China remains absolutely unyielding on the protesters asking for such reasonable things as completely withdraw the bill that triggered this whole set of protests.
Are the protesters still have wide popular support, or did they make a tactical mistake going after the airport?
Yes, I think they do. Yeah, it's if you talk to people on the street or around these demonstrations, I think they do. The problem is that Hong Kong people actually value freedom. They really do. And they want that promise kept. They don't want to live under the Orwellian surveillance state that is China today. And
Claudia,
it's been actually surprising, but it's it's quite strong, the support for the protests.
Claudia, thank you for joining us today. I agree with everything you're saying, but as a realist, it doesn't appear that the world is going to do anything. After Tiananmen Square, which you were there, the world did basically nothing. After the Uyghurs, 1 million, as you mentioned, had put in detention camps, the world has ignored it. You look at what's going on in Kashmir, that is a treaty that India just overwrote. You look at what happened in Georgia with Putin. When he goes in there, he claimed the same thing, terrorism, that they got genocide. He goes in there, the world does almost nothing. It just seems to me that as a realist, that the people don't want a war over this, that China is going to go in and do whatever they wanted to do, and the world's going to do nothing about it and forget about it within 2 years.
Very quickly, Claudia, we don't have much time. Go ahead.
Wouldn't it be right, though, for anyone who can to speak up for what is right, even if it's not going to happen, even if that's not how it will work out? Isn't it the right thing to do? Think back to Winston Churchill. Call this out as it is, because if Hong Kong goes under to China's system now, China will move right on, and there will be a next. There will be Taiwan, and at some point, the troops that are massing at the border here are going to be much closer to somebody else's home. That's why speak up now.
Well, Claudia, I know you've been there before. You know how to deal with dangerous situations, but please take care of yourself. We wish you the very best. Claudia Rosette, thank you very much. Good to see you.